Now, as all of you are saying that if we aged you forward, you think that you would be much more attractive. And this isn't to pick on anybody, but there is a woman in the room right now who's 35 years old. Okay, she's 35 years old. You do realize that you can't escape age. She knows it. She's 35. You can't escape, right? There is no escape for any of you. You are going to hit that number. And
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Exhausted Truth, where I am your host, and I'm very exhausted from always having to tell the goddamn truth. But hey, someone's got to do it. All right, listen. This is here's the thing. The video today is it's very centered around like the age-old tale of time moves faster than you think. I think it said something along those premises. It's, when you're young, you don't move in a way that would indicate you're preparing for old age, right? You don't save or spend money in a way that you're preparing to still have it at an old age. You don't usually do things with your body and your health in a way that would prepare you for an old age, right? Say for a healthy, a better quality of life, old age.
do you honestly think that you're going to look the same that you do now or better? You don't think that that's slightly delusional? Like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Do you think that if the average, 25-year-old millionaire had to select between the 35-year-old or the young women who were here, from the 35-year-old's perspective, which one do you think they would select for?
I think they would probably go for somebody that's younger.
Yeah.
Because they want young, that is a thing. I do see that. I do see that. They've always got a young girl on their arm, and it's more of a trophy kind of thing. It does make sense. I mean, at my age,
it's not just a trophy thing. It's an attraction thing.
Yeah.
You can't be with people you're not attracted to, right?
No.
You can imagine that people, there has to be attraction for there to be a relationship, right? That's at least, I think, a thing we can all agree on. You got to be attracted to who the person is you're with. So it's if it is the case that they would select for all of the other women who are in the room, what you're saying is that the men would be more attracted to the other women in the room. It's not a dunk or even trying to beat up on you. It's just pointing out the distinction.
Kim Kardashian and Megan Fox look so good, and they're in their 40s.
When you're asking,
so you have a combination of plastic surgery, personal trainers, huge amounts of makeup, filters, everything else in between. Sometimes, though, these actresses get snapshot. They get paparazzi takes a quick snap while they're not in their filtered, makeup-induced, Hollywood glam, and they don't look so great, do they? A lot of them don't look so great. You look at them and you're like, she just looks like a plain chick after all.
I'm sorry,
when
what was
all
your
that
name
glam is gone.
Haley. But from Haley's perspective, right, she already is in her mid-30s, and I think a lot of us kind of said we would peak attractively in our mid-30s. Or at least I think a couple of us.
Yeah.
I agree with that. you feel like you are more attractive than you were, right, with your glow up over the past 10 years.
Yeah.
I personally think in my 30s will be my peak. I'm not saying in my 40s I'm going to be more attractive than now, but I would say in my 30s I'm going to peak.
Yeah, probably you're going to peak in your mid-20s like almost every other woman does.
Well,
and there's a reason.
But I also think that it's quite hard.
There's a reason why the peak for women is in their 20s. It's, again, this is a referent to childbearing. It's a referent to fertility. Men would be biologically and necessarily hardwired to be attracted towards women who are fertile. The older women get, the less fertile they become. It's really, it's that simple. It's just basic math, right?
Can I ask you a question? Is that okay?
Sure.
When do you think men peak? And if so, do you think you've already peaked?
Well, women don't have the same problem with men.
Totally.
Yeah, I peaked years ago.
I'm a health science major.
I'm ugly and old, but I don't give a shit, right? It's not important to me. But the thing is that for men, when you're talking about a peak, women aren't tying things into fertility because men are always fertile. They're basically always fertile. They're having babies in their 90s. Women are not, okay?
No,
Women are
but
not
men have
doing that.
ED.
Hang on.
Sorry.
hang on. So it's not tied necessarily to fertility. Women could be attracted to men based around resources, protection, social status, and the hierarchy. These are things that men aren't generally attracted to women over, though. They don't care about what a woman's status is in the hierarchy. If you're a beautiful girl who works at Starbucks, you're just attractive to the millionaire as if you're a beautiful girl who works in Hollywood. It's not important where you stand in the hierarchical structure of things like it is from a woman's perspective with men.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that make sense? So we're selecting for different things.
I mean, it makes sense, but also, like, I don't know. I guess it makes enough sense. I'll take that answer.
Yeah. We're just selecting for different things, right? It's like a
guess.
woman
Do
in
you
her
think-
20s knows a man in his 40s can still impregnate her, and if she has he has tons of resources and he's reasonably attractive, that seems like a pretty good gambit for her, right? But for a man to get together with a woman in her 40s, chances of fertility they significantly decrease. Even by the time
So
you
is
get your
this-
early 30s, they begin to significantly decrease.
So this is going by men that obviously want children. They're not going to look at a woman that's 35 and find them that
No,
attractive
not for men who
because
want children. That's incorrect. How men perceive attractive, what is attractive, is going to be tied to fertility because it's hardwired whether they want kids or not.
so that's going back to
It doesn't-
caveman times. Their instinct.
Well, it's just going into human physiognomy.
So
I mean,
that's-
it is
Sense.
true. What he's saying
Yeah.
is true,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So from a men's,
Wait, why is that
I'm just asking for clarification.
Wait, why is it unfortunate though?
I mean, I think that women should be looked at as more than like just like an incubator for babies.
And shouldn't-
I know that it's hardwired. Like I said, I
But-
just completely understand
Well, they're
that
not
it
being
is.
looked at. No, that's an incorrect take anyway. Nobody's saying that women should be looked at as only incubators. We're just talking about attraction. So you can't be with a person you're not attracted. Well, I think men should be looked at as more than wallets, but some of you just want a billionaire, right? And that's more important than personality, apparently. So the
Hey, that
men
was
should be
one of
looked
us.
at as more than just wallets and your system of protection, right? And you say, I think that you do look at men as not just that, right? You don't just look at them as wallets, right? So, so why would I assume that because you found a man more attractive because he made more money, that means you only see him as that?
Okay, I feel like that kind of clarifies things. So you're saying it represents fertility, but they also need to be attracted to other things. This isn't
No, I'm
just
saying
about
the
fertility.
reason they are attracted to them is because it makes sense for the survival of the species for men to be attracted, the most attracted to fertile women.
Sure.
You want men in the species to be fighting over the most fertile women. You want them to be warring and competing and doing all the shit that they need to do in order to get the most fertile women. Why?
Totally.
Because
Natural
they can
Sounds
spread
stressful, to be honest.
their genetics, right? They're going to spread their
Exhausting.
genetics. The most fertile women are going to be younger, and so of course the attraction level is going to be the highest. There's like from just a survival of the human race perspective, that's necessary, right?
I mean,
if all
I-
the men,
I
in other words,
agree.
let's say we switched it, and all the men became only attracted to 60-year-old women, right? They want nothing to do with young, fertile women anymore. They were only attracted to 60-year-olds. That would be a terrible survival strategy for our species, right? That would be like but the species would go extinct, right?
Totally.
So I'm just asking for clarification in terms of like physical attributes of a woman, like what makes them more attractive specifically. Does that make sense? From like a guy,
yeah,
right?
well,
If you walk
they're-
into a bar and you're like
Yeah.
looking and gazing across all of the women in
the
the bar.
characteristics of preferences may vary from man to man, right? For what they distinctly find attractive in individual women. Perhaps some like bigger eyes, some like smaller eyes, some like bigger breasts, some like smaller breasts. That can vary, but there's going to be some things which are universals. One thing that's going to be universal is that generally the younger the woman is, obviously within reason, women we're talking about here, the younger they are, generally, the more attractive they appear to the opposite sex, at least from the man's perspective.
So and this is just a theoretical, so if in 10 years I'm saying I peak because I don't have as much of a baby face, but I still have the same build, I'm still pretty like tiny, I have a youthful looking body still. How will that distinguish? Like,
Because if men can select, if the type of man you want is the type of man who can select for the younger version of you, he will, because he'll be instinctually more attracted to that. Now, this is not always the case, and it's not going to be the case with every man.
Creepy, icky, predatory, manipulative,
I think it's
exploitative. Huh?
Is it? I think it's the motive behind it.
What do you mean the motive?
Like
What if
why they're seeking younger women?
Yeah, what if the motive is she's just hot?
Because they want to have sex with them and have babies with them.
They want to have sex with a hot woman.
Like, that's the motive. The motive, like, think about it. It actually makes sense, right? The
I mean, yeah,
motivation of if
biologically.
men were attracted again to 60-year-olds, right? That would devastate all of humankind. There would not be a humanity left. So, of course, yes, 40, 45, 50-year-old men would love, if they're single, to have a 22, 23, 24-year-old woman. Of course.
Somebody comes to you and says, you know, when you're old, what do you think you're going to think about this? Or how do you think this is going to be when you're old, right? Any type of concept, I guess is what I'm trying to say, right? When someone comes up with a concept with a young person that involves them being older, you start to see those gears, you know, some of those gears that have never ran ever in a young person's head, you can start to see those motherfuckers start to spin a little bit. And that's just what we have in this video here, right? This is a situation where Andrew Wilson starts coming up with concepts that make these young women think about older age. And when they move in a way that benefits them now, when they're young, well, everything seems fine. But the second you say, well, how do you feel about this situation, or what would you do when, you know, with X, Y, or Z when you get older? And all of a sudden, you start to see the panic set in. You start to see thoughts fluttering through their brain that they've never had take flight ever. And because of that, it's interesting, because the things that they say after that, and now the question is, can they go back to thinking how they did before? I don't know. But when you present it to young women, it's particularly interesting, right? Young women specifically, because young women move in a way and they treat people in a way a lot of times that they're not even thinking about what happens when they're old. They might treat a good man a certain way because they're like, who cares? I'm young. I got plenty of options. But they're not thinking about when they're that, 40-year-old woman and, now they want to kind of settle down and those options are a lot more scarce. And they're starting to realize that they should have been maybe a little more calculated with how they, navigated this world and navigated friendships and etc. when they were young. Specifically, now it's funny because when he said we have the 5-year-old or whatever it was in the room right now, he didn't even say her name. I knew who she was, right? I could tell who's the older one there. And honestly, there's some young chicks next to her that look much rougher than her, but they look like they're young, but they're not doing very well. They're not being very calculated in their young age, right? But specifically, this chick right here, the white shirt in the far corner, yeah, you could see specifically how she was trying to she was almost looking at Andrew like he was literally telling her future, and this is the first time she's thought of it, and she's very scared. And now she's like, wait, but what if I take care of myself? And what if I do this? And what if I do that? And what if I still look youthful? You're older, bitch. And it's something you're going to have to face. That's why you enjoy your youth and don't treat, good men like shit, because those good men may have been the only ones to still want to stick around when your ass got older. Right. And I know women are like, well, just because we're older doesn't mean you're right. It doesn't mean that you're fucking that you're damaged goods and the product's over and you're spoiled and we got to go get something for. No. But there's a lot of men that just aren't going to look at you as an option for being a mother anymore. And men with money that want that fun little sexy tender thing, that young tender thing of age, hopefully. But you know what I'm saying? Something fun, something that likes to go out and party, and a chick that really doesn't have a lot of experiences. They kind of want to be that chick's first experiences, And so those guys aren't looking at you anymore. it's just a fact, right? So again, you can still be happy. You can still be attractive at an older age, but the odds of you being more attractive as a woman than you were when you were younger, well, it's slim to none. And it's delusional hoping for that. So the best bet you can do is just be more calculated now. And you won't have to worry about this because you'll be setting these foundations to when you're older. You have a good man, hopefully, in your life, right? I'm not saying women need a man, right? You can go down that rabbit hole, especially in today's day. But, you're going to find that a lot of your friends that said oh, this guy ain't shit, fuck that guy, all of a sudden they're settling down. All of a sudden they're starting families, right? And then people in your family are off doing their thing, right? You start to realize that when you have that companionship, they're the only ones that are gonna usually typically drop what they're doing and see what's up with you, right? If you got something you want to complain about, they're gonna listen, even if they're not in the mood to, right? But a lot of other people in this world aren't gonna do that for you. So when you find a good partner and you fucked it up because you had a lot of options when you were young, yeah, it is going to be something by most women and most human beings that will be missed, is that companionship, especially if you don't have kids and you don't have, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not a guarantee that you're going to regret it, but it's best to just move better now and think about when you make moves and you do shit, think about just a little bit, how is this going to affect me when I'm older? And it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years, it could be 20. But if you don't think of that way now, that shit will creep up on you a whole lot faster than you ever expected it to. Then you're going to be sitting there trying to figure out what the fuck you do with yourself. And you don't want to be in that situation. You hopefully made it so you had some type of plan for when that day came. And they have a chick that's older than them sitting right next to them and kind of talking, and I don't know how much they're gonna listen. And then you have the one chick that was blatantly, you could tell she was fucking scared. She's like, well, what if this and that? Anyway, all right, y'all, that's my time. And until next time, y'all stay easy out there. Peace out.